Mount Everest. 29,000 feet. The highest point on Earth. Captivating and deadly. In the 1920s, to conquer this mountain was the greatest challenge remaining in a golden age of adventure. Everest was the edge of heaven, where many believed no human could survive. But not George Mallory.
Everest is the last great conquest for man. The wildest dream.
George Mallory dreamed of being the first man to climb Everest. On June 8, 1924, dressed in gabardine and hobnail boots, he and his fellow climber, Sandy Irvin, were last seen 800 feet below the summit. Then the clouds rolled in. They were never seen alive again. Many believed that almost 30 years before Everest was officially conquered, George Mallory was the first man to set foot on the top of the world. "75 years after Mallory and Irvin vanished, mountaineer Conrad Anker took part in an expedition looking for their bodies high on Everest.
Conrad, come in, please.
I'm down at 26.7, over.
Anker struck off on his own.
Conrad, you're way below the search zone. You need to be higher, over.
I was curious. I stopped, turned around, and there was a patch of white. It wasn't snow. It was matte, a light-absorbing color, like marble. As I got closer, I realized this was the body of one of the pioneering English climbers, frozen onto the mountainside. For a moment, I thought, maybe I can just keep walking and keep it to myself. But then, that's what we were there for.
Group meeting. Mandatory group meeting. Over.
Here, wait. This is George Mallory. Oh my God. Oh my God. You see that? George Mallory. Oh my God.
George Mallory and I, our two paths have intersected, 75 years apart.
My aunt called me and said in a rather small voice on the phone, "Susie, they've found my father's body on Mount Everest." And I was amazed. I was absolutely shocked. It was very powerful to know where my grandfather was and how he died.
He had a compound fracture of his right leg above the ankle, fatal on Everest.
His arms were outstretched, as if he had tried to dig his fingers into the side of the mountain. He was last seen up on the ridge, heading west for the summit. But I found him far to the east. So Mallory was on his way back, maybe returning from the summit itself. His sun goggles, vital against the glare from the snow, were in his pocket, so it must have been getting dark. He and Irvin were tied together by a thin cotton rope. They were tired, absolutely beat, no energy left, minds not functioning clearly. Mallory crossed his left leg over the broken one to ease the pain. And it was a matter of minutes, a half hour at the very most, before he died. Did Mallory reach the summit almost 3 decades before the first official climb? We discovered many things on his body. Documents and letters perfectly preserved 75 years later. His wristwatch rusted in at 10 after 5. The goggles that were inside of his vest. An altimeter, the face broken and the hands missing. But one very significant item was missing, the photo of his wife, Ruth, which he'd promised to leave on the summit.
Was the photo missing because Mallory had reached the summit and placed it there? The ultimate tribute to his love of Ruth? He was last seen about 800 feet below the summit, near the notoriously difficult second step.
If Mallory was able to make it to the summit in 1924, he and Irvine would have had to have climbed this overhanging cliff at about 28,000 feet.
There's never been a confirmed free climb of the second step. Everyone who climbs it today uses a metal ladder bolted to the rock by Chinese climbers in 1975.
I want to go back to Everest to try and climb the second step under the very same conditions Mallory faced. It was a pure cliff when Mallory and Irvine approached it. No one had ever been there. It would have been an incredible feat of climbing if they'd pulled that off.
Adventure, risk. There's some people that thrive on it, that seek it out. They want to push their own limits. Mallory is one of those people.
Mallory grew up in Cheshire, northern England. He made his first fateful climb in Moberly, his home village.
Mallory's father was a vicar here at this church. And it was here that the young boy escaped and climbed up to the top of the church, age 7. And imagine that. Finding climbing. It's his true passion in life.
I actually think that some people who climb are wired a little differently from the rest of us. My grandfather really didn't feel fear of heights or precipices or anything like that. He had a way of climbing that was not quite like everyone else's. His arms and legs would just sort of eat up a mountain, and he would start flowing over it like a wave.
Aged 19, Mallory entered the University of Cambridge at a time of great cultural upheaval.
So when Mallory arrived in Cambridge in 1905, he pitched into this ferment and bubble of ideas, excitement, intellectual, sexual, social, secret societies. He obviously possessed some remarkable charisma, sort of charmed presence that drew the eye, compelled the gaze.
My mind is in a state of constant rebellion. I believe that will always be so.
He was a dreamer. And he was in Cambridge at a time of great and powerful dreaming. And eventually, that dream took its form in the shape of Everest.